Well, good morning or good afternoon, everyone. This is Joy Burkhardt, and I am the founder and get to be the fortunate leader of the Mom Congress movement right now, along with many organizational partners and members and a great team that's presenting today. We welcome you and welcome you virtually to Mom Congress 2.5. We wanted to start by, I actually think, all of us just stopping to take a deep breath together. So let's just pause and take a deep breath because we've been through a lot. And I think recognizing the stress of motherhood right now and the stress of living during a pandemic is worth catching our breath over. So let's just take a deep breath together for just a moment. And even if you feel comfortable, close your eyes. I'm going to do that because I feel like I need that right now in this moment with all of you. So let's take a deep breath. Again, welcome. We're so glad that you're with us and that we got to take a deep breath with all of you in this moment. And welcome to all of you who are with Mom Congress for the first time. There's about 150 of you who have registered and will be watching the live recording or the recording non-live later. Welcome to all of you. I wanted to start by giving you some logistics for today's session. All of you should be able to see the GoToWebinar control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. You can see that there is a gray line that says questions, and we invite you to use that question feature of GoToWebinar today if you have questions throughout today's session. We will get to questions, though, at the end of today's session. We'll reserve about 5 to 10 minutes to get to those. And if for some reason we don't get to all of them, we'll be sending out a Q&A after today's session with the recording. So we are so thrilled to have you again for Mom Congress 2.5. You may be thinking, what does 2.5 mean? And as all of you know, many of you know, Mom Congress is generally held in May in Washington, D.C. And because of the COVID crisis, we converted Mom Congress to 2.0, which was to bring the whole event to you virtually. And received feedback from some of you that just felt overwhelming, as exciting as it seemed to be together in person for 3 days virtually. It just wasn't going to work. And so we've converted Mom Congress to Mom Congress 2.5, and we're bringing you town halls like this and workshops and speakers and webinars throughout the summer and into the fall. That's Mom Congress 2.5, and I want to applaud our team for pivoting a couple of times there. And isn't it interesting that I feel like even the journey of motherhood has required us to convert our lives a few times as well. And I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm in motherhood 3.5 probably, with homeschooling and how do I juggle work, and just want to honor and acknowledge the struggle that we've all been going through, and that versioning our lives and our events is okay, and exactly what we've been doing together with you in this community. A little bit more about Mom Congress. We believe that Mom Congress and mothers deserve a voice on the Hill, just like the AARP, the Association for American Retired People, the NRA, the National Rifle Association, even the AMA, the American Medical Association for Doctors. We believe moms deserve a place on the Hill and a voice on the Hill to address the issues that are important to them, which may change over time. And we're building that movement together with all of you. You'll learn a little bit more about our membership community from Crystal and our new online platform in a bit. And we'll remind you that you all have an opportunity to join as members. You're welcome to join these events as non-members. Some of them will be available to all of you as well. But check out that membership page when you have a moment. So we're also really excited and grateful for our coalition partners. So we're going to advance to the next slide and want to thank and honor all of those partners. And you'll see those logos up on the screen here in just a minute. You know who you are. So I'm going to name off a few of those partners. And it looks like we're putting our deck in presentation mode here. We were joking that there's something called Zoom fatigue, and there's also something called Zoom distress, right? If you're on the other end of hosting an event, that sometimes there can be some glitches and cause a little distress, and that's okay. We're going to go with the flow. So here are all of our coalition members and partners. You can see all their logos up today. Just want to thank all of you for being a part of this community. Many of these organizations actually pay in to making Mom Congress possible and helping to design the event together. So we just want to thank all of you for your partnership, and especially to those coalition organization members who are members of Mom Congress and helping to create the event together with us. I also want to acknowledge, given the time of the COVID crisis, that one of our partners, the Colette Tisdale Foundation, has offered a COVID crisis fund for mothers who are struggling. So if you're in a situation and need some additional help, you can find that information on our social media channels and also through their website. We'll make sure that we send out a link to their website following today's town hall. With that, I am really excited to invite our sponsor for Mom Congress and today's town hall, Sage Therapeutics, to the virtual stage. And we're so lucky to have Vanessa Proctor with us today. There she is. And she is the Vice President of Public Affairs and Public Policy at Sage Therapeutics. So couldn't be a more perfect person to join us today and talk a little bit about what's happening at Sage and how grateful they are to be a part of this community. Thanks, Vanessa.
Thank you, Joy. And actually, I'm not going to spend too much of my time talking about Sage. I'm gonna spend most of my time talking about the good work that you're doing. And I'm certainly here along with Marjorie, who's online, to answer any questions that you all have during today, and of course any day after. But good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're logged in from. I am excited to be able to participate remotely with all of you and discuss ways that we are meeting this unprecedented challenge facing moms and children and caregivers and family. And if, Joy, if there was ever an appropriate time to highlight the mother load, as I know that you often reference, that time is certainly now. Like most of you, I'm spending days staring at my homeschool schedule in desperation while I try to send emails under what I describe as shattered concentration. How many different jobs do we find ourselves in? Many of us are full-time working moms, busier than ever, working 4 jobs at once, shifting constantly and without warning or prep, I might add, between mommy, employee, wife, colleague, friend, daughter, neighbor, and I arguably would say that we face a burden of worry like no other. But your timing to advocate is impeccable. Without the voice of those who possess both the expertise and experience, legislation and regulations will not reflect what's best for women's health. And in many ways, the beauty of our democratic system is that moms have the right to advocate. And as a constituent, you are an indispensable part of that democratic system. But you already know this. So I have roughly 20 years of experience in public policy. I worked for about a decade on Capitol Hill and have now been in the biopharmaceutical space since. And so I wanted to share with you, I'm a very bottom line person, and so I wanted to share with you perhaps some advice as you move forward and share some of my experiences. We are not the only group of advocates who need something. Post-COVID-19, we will see budget shortfalls across this country like we have never seen before. And advocates, I'm sad to say, will be competing with one another for attention, all making a case as to why what they are saying is more critical than anyone else. And as often is the case, whoever screams the loudest will win. But this can also be a moment of unique opportunity. We can also turn our own reaction to the rawness of this moment into the chance to strengthen our advocacy. And the reality is, and I know we have some staff on the line from Congress, but in my experience, Congress is a stimulus response institution. They legislate when they need to react to something. When an issue becomes so popular and so in demand, they are left with no other option. And there is nothing more stimulating than having hundreds of moms, families, and caregivers shouting in an organized and disciplined fashion. And after all, building an infrastructure to support moms and families is too important to leave up to elected officials. So bring your friends, rally your families, and organize to win, and drive your message through letters, through phone calls, and through media. And if I could leave anything with you today, do not only turn out people with whom you agree, engage other people with whom you don't. And with that, on behalf of myself and Marjorie and my colleagues at SAGE, I simply want to say thank you for playing such a vital role giving key information. Moms are hugely trusted by the public, and therefore, the information that you provide is a lifeline to a lot of people. And with that, Joy, I look forward to hearing from everyone today.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Vanessa. I really feel inspired, and we knew that you were going to share some really important words of wisdom, and thanks for lifting up mothers, talking about the mother load. I think we certainly all feel it. I thought it would be appropriate to briefly mention, some of you may remember that together, Mom Congress with Motherly, the online magazine and community, declared the year 2020 the year of the mother. And some of you know it's also the year of the nurse. When the COVID crisis struck, Motherly and the team thought, boy, it's not time to push the year of the mother right now. And I think probably all of us now may agree that now more than ever, it's time to declare the year 2020, the year of the mother. So be looking for some more work on that front and some ways that we can convene around that hashtag, year of the mother, spelled out that way. And thank you, Vanessa. That was truly, I feel inspired and appreciate hearing your voice as an expert on the Hill about how important it is for all of us to be speaking up. I do also want to remind folks that you can share your favorite quotes. I think I got one or two from Vanessa today that I want to share on social media. You can use the hashtag MomCongress2020, hashtag MomCongress2020, and share your favorite quotes on social media today, throughout today's session, or even later today. We also want to share with you that we have a special video that is available or soon to be available on our social media channels from the Mothers in the House Congressional Caucus, an informal caucus that you'll get to hear about. It's actually Moms in the House you'll get to hear about in just a moment, about the COVID crisis, and all of the mothers in that caucus saying, please stay at home and take care of yourselves. And it's a really fun way to get to know all of those individual members of the Moms in the House caucus and see them at home with their kids. It's very short, less than a minute, and really fun to watch. So we encourage you to take a look at that today. So I'm going to pause and see if our next guest, Debbie Wasserman-Schultz from the caucus, is with us. And Crystal, if you don't mind letting me know she's with us, and we'll go ahead and turn the cameras over to her. All right, I think we're going to pause because we may still not have Debbie Wasserman-Schultz with us. So we're going to go ahead and turn it over to Luke Kopetsky, who is going to help us walk through the Mom Congress Momnibus. And some of you may know that last year, Mom Congress issued what we call the Momnibus, which is the framework for policy that we support, including 4 caucus areas or interest areas. Those include working mothers in that bucket, paid family leave and affordable childcare, We don't have affordable child care policy in that bucket quite yet, but you'll get to hear about the paid family leave policy today from Luke. You'll also get to hear about the maternal mental health policy that's in the Momnibus bill package this year, and the maternal mortality and maternal health bills. And then finally, we're going to turn it over to one other speaker and mom that's in our network and mother that's in our network. I call her the mother of all mothers. Kay Matthews will be joining us to talk about the Black maternal health legislation that's in the Mom Congress Momnibus. So Luke, we're going to go ahead and turn it over to you, and you can share your camera now, and we'll walk through those first three buckets or caucus areas of the Momnibus.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Joy, for that kind introduction. So yeah, as Joy indicated, I'm going to be walking through the various bills that make up the 2020 Mom Congress Momnibus platform, beginning with the issue bucket of paid family leave and the Family Act. So a little bit of background.
If you don't mind, it's Joy again. Folks can't see my face, but I failed to mention that you are with Center Road Solutions, and Center Road Solutions is the public affairs firm that we're working with to craft our policy platform and track important legislation, create calls to action for the community. And so, Luke, now back to you, and thanks again for joining us.
Yep, yeah, thank you, Joy, again, for that nice introduction. So on the Family Act, just a little bit of background information. As I'm sure many of you know, the United States is the only developed country in the world without a national paid leave mandate for new parents. This bill, the Family Act, which is being led by Congresswoman DeLauro from Connecticut in the House and by Senator Gillibrand from New York in the Senate, would aim to change that and establish first national paid leave mandate.
Oh yeah, I mean, it says
Just a reminder for those who are not speaking to please mute your line.
Thank you. So the Family Act, essentially what it does is it provides workers with up to 12 weeks of partial income when they need to take time off, either for a serious health condition, for pregnancy, childbirth recovery, adoption of a child, for certain military caregiving purposes, and also to deal with a serious health condition of a child, a parent, a spouse, or a domestic partner. So in terms of the level of income, it would enable workers to receive 66% or 2/3 of their monthly wages up to a capped amount, with the cap being a maximum of $4,000 per month in terms of the benefit amount. This bill really aims to be a comprehensive paid leave bill that addresses paid leave for all different kinds of workers. So self-employed people, private sector workers, people working at big companies, small companies, public employees. This bill is really aiming to be a paid leave program for all employed people in the United States. And what really makes this bill unique and sets it apart from some of the other paid leave proposals that we see in the House right now is that the Family Act would establish paid leave as a right, meaning that the Family Act would make it illegal to fire or discriminate against someone who applies or intends to apply for benefits under the Family Act. In terms of how this bill is funded, it's funded by a small employee and employer payroll contribution of 0.2%, both from the employer and the employee. This equates to about 2 cents per $10 in wages, which is less than $2 per week for a typical worker, so not a huge amount of money. And this bill would be, this program would be established through the Office of Paid Family and Medical Leave, which would be a new office within the Social Security Administration.
Thank you, Luke. We're going to pause because, as folks can see, we are now being joined by Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who we're so thrilled is with us. Luke will come right back to you. We're so thrilled to get to turn over the stage to you, Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz. And we want to remind folks who are with all of us in DC last year, you can see that Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz is here front and center, right where she should be, holding the sign, "Mom should be your top special interest." And We think that you still might have that sign in your office in DC, which we love and are so thrilled that you're with us today, Congresswoman. So we're going to turn it over to you and are just grateful for your time. Thank you. Oh, and it looks like we just need to get your line unmuted.
Okay, I think I'm good now.
There we go. Yeah.
Not used 7 different thousand kinds of platforms during the COVID-19 crisis. Not this one yet. So first time for everything. In fact, I'm in my office, so given that moms kind of have to just make do. Forgive me for my very unattractive background. That's my craft bin from when I was a Girl Scout leader for my girls, and it just isn't the best background, but my husband isn't home to reattach my tripod so that I can talk to you in the nicer setting. So forgive me. I had to take that with me to DC and just got back. So anyway, good afternoon, everyone. It is really so great to be here with Mom Congress. This organization was an organization that I was so happy to learn existed, quite frankly. And I remember Joy and Crystal coming to the end really of your event, your DC fly-in, and that picture really captured all of our like the emotion of our bonding really. I was last, but it was almost neat that I was last because it gave me so much more time with you, and we had a chance to talk. And I mentioned then, and I'll talk about this now, is that when I was first elected to Congress, I was really one of just a handful of moms with young children. And so connecting with moms professionally for me has really been so important. I mean, especially knowing that you want the feeling that you're not alone, because you can really feel very isolated, particularly in different kinds of different places of work where, sometimes it's not so easy for women to talk to one another about those challenges, particularly in competitive environments. And layer on top of that, the challenging environments and the times that we are living in now, for women and families with young children and moms, we're living through an unprecedented situation. This pandemic has brought on challenges beyond the normal ones that we live, balancing work and family every day, both unexpected and expected. But for women and mothers, it is particularly dire. In the past few weeks, as I said, I've been on lots of platforms on these calls, and I'm sure many of you have questions about what Congress is doing to help women and families during these challenging times. I want to take a minute to give you an overview and an explanation of how Congress is putting women and mothers first, but really do it through a mom lens. But first, let me just briefly mention, and you can see our logo below me, I want to briefly mention a bit about the caucus that I formed with my colleagues and what brought me here today. As women, as we're often discouraged from taking the risks and making the bold moves necessary to break barriers. Men, that's a sign of strength. Taking risks and being bold and being ambitious. All of those things are leadership qualities in men. In us, we are, we've got our claws out. They use the B word, you name it, and nothing positive about assertiveness is attached to women or mothers. And really, that's in no small part because women are still heavily underrepresented in leadership positions, both in government offices and in businesses. But we have gained ground, which is fantastic. We now have a record high of 127 women in Congress. 28 of us are mothers of school-age children. As a member who, as I said, was one of the only women to have young children when I first entered Congress, and by the way, I gave birth to all 3 of my kids on the last day of the legislative session, or near the last day of the legislative session, 9 months pregnant, when I was in the state legislature. But since I have been one of the onlys, I really thought it was so important for me that we create a space and a community to support all the moms with young children in Congress and share the unique challenges that we face. Really create a mom sisterhood in Congress, because there's only 435 of us and only 28 of us that are living this while raising our kids. And so we started what is affectionately known as the Moms in the House Caucus. And while we have more women than ever before in Congress, we need it. We needed a distinct space to get together and share our challenges, our concerns, our celebrations, and so far it's really been an incredible success. It's just good to know that there are other women who are dealing with the same things. And we had a whole lot of new women members, whose kids are younger than mine. My twins are 21 now, and my youngest daughter is 16. And so I'm in a different stage of mothering than a lot of the women who have actually really young kids. So it's just important that we are able to be there for one another. And I know that in this virtual room that we're in right now, many of you are women and mothers with bold visions. And I also know that for many of us right now, advocacy can feel challenging. I mean, try to add that to the list too. My God. Sometimes, I don't even get my clothes on. I ran upstairs and put this T-shirt on. I was lucky that I could find the T-shirt. So we have to remember that when we have the power of collective voices, our work is easier. And so we have to utilize and celebrate the collective voice in these unprecedented times. And I know that at Mom Congress, you talk about the burdens of the mother load. And that's something that all of us have been coping with during COVID-19. The working moms that are lucky enough to have avoided the virus or recovered from it are juggling jobs and childcare with an intensity that has not existed in modern times. Many moms with young children are homeschooling while working. I cannot even imagine having to homeschool my kids on top of everything else. My youngest daughter is definitely beyond me in math, so I can be of no help to her. But the whole issue of preparing lunches while working, they might be policing screen time while working and dealing with the waves of guilt and stress or resignation that come with not doing any of those things or feeling like you're not doing any of those things particularly well. For me personally, being at home for this long, for the first time in 15 years with my 3 children and my husband, and quite frankly, I'm coming up to about the longest time I've spent at home with my husband in our entire marriage. It's actually been kind of nice to learn that it wasn't just that we're together because absence makes the heart grow fonder. Turns out we do like each other, so that was a good revelation. And yesterday was actually my twins' 21st birthday. And I had to miss it to vote on the HEROES Act, but that's an important part of my job, and using my voice to uplift the voices of moms all over the country is so critical. It's actually the first time that I've missed their birthday in their whole life. Been there for every one of them, somehow worked it out all these years, and the last 2 was with one or the other of them, but not both. So we're going to celebrate tonight, so all good, but this is a group that would understand and can relate to my sorrow over that. I did FaceTime with them for their first drink, so that was the first legal drink. Let's be real. But your children's birthdays are just never something a mom wants to miss, and we have to make sacrifices as working moms. That's just the way it is. And with people who are sick, unemployed, and dying, casting that vote and using my voice was the very least I could do. And I know that I'm so fortunate, and for many other moms, things are far, far worse. I even was, we have like our little mom group text chain, and I was explaining that I was so sad that I had to miss their birthday, but I also hashtagged it first world problems, because having just come from a food distribution where I'm even seeing cars that are quite a bit nicer than the type of car you'd expect someone to drive up in who is in need of food. Missing my kid's birthday, not the most important thing on planet Earth. While people are struggling. So we're currently in what the New York Times is coining a she-cession as opposed to recession. This is the first time since 1948 that the female unemployment rate has reached double digits. And what this tells us is that no matter what their circumstance, mothers in this country are struggling. And as we know, women, especially women of color, are on the front lines of the COVID-19 crisis. Women are 85% of home healthcare and personal aides, 93% of childcare workers, 66% of the grocery store cashiers and salespeople. All those jobs require millions of women to risk exposure every day just to keep our communities healthy and safe. And that's why it's critical that our second coronavirus package, the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, extended paid sick leave and paid emergency leave for parents to care for themselves and their child without fearing losing their job. And our most recent legislation that passed the House yesterday, the HEROES Act, expands workers' ability to use paid sick days and paid leave and ends the exemption for employers with more than 500 employees. Because women should not be forced to choose between their next paycheck and their children. And in many industries, women are on the front lines of those losing their jobs. A recent survey by the National Women's Law Center found that women are twice as likely as men to have been laid off during the COVID-19 pandemic. Women, and especially women of color, are also overrepresented in the low-paid service economy that is getting slammed with layoffs right now. And with many of these jobs paying $12 an hour or less, they are left with little cushion to fall back on. And that's why it's vital that our third package, the CARES Act, provided direct payments to individuals and families. It expanded unemployment insurance, and it increased small business loans to support women and families. And the HEROES Act extends UI and includes another round of direct payments to those who need them most. With more than 22 million working families across the country, our nation's economic recovery in the aftermath of this crisis will depend on a system that is able to bounce back. Mothers and families cannot carry the load themselves, and that's why it's vital that we support our child care system, those who care for and educate the next generation while making it possible for today's parents to earn a living. And I'm happy to say that both the CARES Act and the HEROES Act included a number of provisions that provide initial support for childcare, like more funding for the Child Care and Development Block Grant and for Head Start. Millions of families depend on childcare every day. I know that I did from the first time I stepped my foot out the door to go back to work after I gave birth to all three of my kids. And as moms, you know that a comprehensive and robust response to counter the cascading effects of COVID-19 is essential. Before I close, I just want to say one thing. And I try to always mention this when I'm speaking to groups of women, but particularly mothers. We are really good at taking care of everyone but ourselves. We think of everyone first before we think of ourselves. But we are good to no one if we are not healthy. So make sure that you are paying attention to the public health guidelines. Make sure that you are staying home if you can and staying safe. We all have to really understand that we don't have a vaccine for this virus yet. We don't have treatment. And despite the reopenings of the economy around the country, we still have to be careful and stay at home as much as possible. So I promise to continue to keep up this fight, help us stay afloat during these precarious times. And fighting for women and families has been and will remain one of my top priorities. So thank you for being such an important part of this discussion and advocating on behalf of moms across this country. Thank you for having my back, because I get to stand on your shoulders knowing that there's an army of moms out there who get it and who understand what Congress needs to be focusing on, especially now that we have more strength in our numbers. Thank you so much, and everyone stay safe and healthy.
I'm going to clap for you on behalf of everyone. We're getting texts and messages that you are saying exactly what we need to hear right now, and we are your army. Thank you so much for all the work you're doing on behalf of all of us, and we're pleased to be your partner. And that term, a she session, is one we all need to start using and really raise awareness around the fact that we're being impacted in disproportionate ways, and it matters. Debbie Wasserman-Schultz, thank you. We're looking forward to doing more events with you and Emma on
Absolutely,
your team.
in person and virtually.
Exactly. Let's hope.
Thanks, everyone.
Well,
Take care.
You.
Bye.
Thanks, Debbie. Excellent. So we're going to turn it back over to Luke from Center Road Solutions here to finish going through his three buckets of the Mom Congress Momnibus. There was one question that came in on the Family Act and whether it replaces paid family leave in those states that may already have paid family leave. So Luke, you can quickly address that, and then we'll move through the other two buckets.
Yeah, absolutely. So the FMLA is a little bit different from the Family Act in the sense that it doesn't necessarily apply to all employees. FMLA was mainly created for public employees and also for employees working at bigger companies. FMLA unfortunately doesn't cover a lot of self-employed people, people working for smaller companies, for small businesses. So really the Family Act overall is much more comprehensive than FMLA and really seeks to cover all workers regardless of the size of their company or if they're self-employed or employed by a private company, etc. Great. So just to wrap up my discussion of the Family Act and just talk about some of the potential benefits of this bill. So it's estimated that working families lose around $20 billion in wages each year due to a lack of paid family leave and medical leave. So this bill would help those working families recoup those losses and avoid losing a substantial amount of their wages when they need to take leave. There's also a substantial amount of evidence indicating that paid leave contributes greatly to improve newborn and child health. Mothers, are able to spend more time with their children. They're more likely to be able to take their newborn babies to doctors for checkups and immunizations and that sort of thing. So really all the evidence indicates that paid leave leads better health outcomes for children and newborns. And also this act could potentially be beneficial for employers as well. The evidence from the California Family Leave Insurance Program, which has existed for more than a decade now, indicates that paid leave contributes to reduced employee turnover, which saves employers a substantial amount of money as they can avoid hiring new employees, which can often be a costly process. And in a survey of businesses, 9 out of 10 in California reported positive or neutral effects on profitability and productivity as a result of this bill. So really, the Family Act has the potential to be beneficial for all involved. Great. So moving on to our next issue bucket and our next bill. So our next issue bucket is maternal mental health, and I'll be discussing increasing funding for the Bringing Postpartum Depression Out of the Shadows Act. So as you may know, this bill, the Bringing Postpartum Depression Out of the Shadows Act, was originally passed in 2016 as part of the 21st Century Cures Act. However, the way the bill was passed and the funding structure was created, the program needs to be refunded each year. The funding is not automatic. That provides the opportunity to request increased funding, and that's exactly what we're doing. So we're asking that the funding for a specific program under this bill, that program is called the Screening and Treatment for Maternal Depression Program. We're requesting an increase of $3 million for this program, up from its current $5 million to $8 million. So what that funding would be used for is really the activities that we see under the Screening and Treatment for Maternal Depression Program. This means training and resources, information on maternal depression screening, treatment, follow-up support, community referrals, also real-time psychiatric consultation programs, public awareness campaigns, startup costs, linkages to community-based resources. Really, it aims to be a comprehensive effort to increase access and the quality of care for postpartum, for mothers facing postpartum depression. So the last round of funding, 7 states were included: Florida, Kansas, Louisiana, Montana, North Carolina, Rhode Island, and Vermont. The goal with this additional funding is to allow more states to establish programs similar to the programs we've seen so far, and also to provide funding directly to HRSA to establish what they're calling a technical assistance center, which would provide states with best practices and training and technical assistance so they can, as quickly as possible and effectively as possible, establish these programs. Great, so we can move on to the next issue bucket now, which is maternal mortality and maternal health. And I'll first be discussing the Rural Moms Act. So the Rural Moms Act, which was introduced by Representative Small from New Mexico and Representative Newhouse from Washington in the House of Representatives, and by Senator Smith and Senator Ernst in the Senate, really aims to address some of the problems we see with rural maternal health. This bill, interestingly, is highly bipartisan. It pretty much has equal support from both Democrats and Republicans in both the House and Senate versions. As you might guess, in the current political climate, this isn't something we see with great regularity. So the fact that it has such bipartisan support is really highly encouraging. And so a little background information, more than half of rural hospitals in the United States lack hospitals, or more than half of rural counties in the United States lack hospitals with labor and birthing services. This contributes to a pretty substantial disparity in access to care and worse outcomes for the 18 million or so women of reproductive age who happen to live in rural areas. So this bill does a few things. Its main thrust is to establish rural obstetric telemedicine networks with the goal of improving outcomes in birth and maternal morbidity. So these networks would aim to connect individuals with care providers, identify successful maternal care models, facilitate collaboration among rural providers, provide training and guidance, collaborate with academic institutions that have regional expertise, and also measure and address inequities in birth outcomes among rural residents. The bill also, in addition to that main thrust, has a few other initiatives. So it requires the awarding of 5-year demonstration projects, program grants for 2 purposes. One is to train physicians, medical residents, and other practitioners to provide maternal and obstetric services in rural communities. And second, to support academic programs that develop or provide training to improve maternal care in rural areas. Great, so moving on to our next bill in this issue category, it's the Data Mapping to Save Moms Lives Act. This bill, like the Rural Moms Act, is also very bipartisan, which is again very encouraging in terms of the likelihood of this bill passing through Congress. So out of all the bills that we're discussing today, this one is probably the most straightforward and easy to understand. The text of the bill itself is really only about 1 page long. And so the bill really aims to do one thing. It would require the FCC, also known as the Federal Communications Commission, to incorporate data on maternal health outcomes into its broadband health mapping tools. So in case you're unfamiliar with those tools, every year the FCC puts out maps, which are available publicly online, where you can compare certain health outcomes to the availability of broadband in those areas. So right now, health outcomes, you can do a comparison on diabetes, obesity, access to a physician, issues like that. This bill, in essence, would require maternal health outcomes, which would be decided by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. It would add that as a category to these broadband health mapping tools. So you might be wondering, what's the purpose of that? What's the idea there? Well, the idea is that this data mapping could help show where we see both areas of high poor maternal health outcomes and see where those overlap with a lack of access to broadband services in order to identify areas of the country where improved access to telehealth services and improved broadband could be the most impactful and most effective. So it will really help identify areas of the country with poor maternal health outcomes and a lack of broadband that could really benefit from an increased investment in broadband services, telehealth services. Great, so moving on to our next bill, which is the Midwives for Moms Act. This bill was introduced by Representative Roybal Allard from California and Representative Herb Boutler from Washington. The main goal of this bill is to address the growing maternity care provider shortage we see in the country today. Nearly half of US counties now have no certified nurse midwife or OBGYN providing services in their counties, and that problem is really only expected, unfortunately, to increase in upcoming years. So this bill is really hoping to reverse that trend by expanding educational opportunities for midwives. And also sort of a secondary goal of the bill is to address the lack of diversity we unfortunately sometimes see in the maternity care workforce. And it would do so by prioritizing racial and ethnic minority students and students from disadvantaged backgrounds in the hope that a more diverse workforce could help provide more culturally competent care. So as you can see from the little blurb there, this establishes 2 grant programs for midwifery education, one through Title VII Health Professionals Training Programs, and the other through Title VIII Nursing Workforce Development Programs. While there are this bill does establish 2 grant programs. The 2 grant programs essentially do the same thing. One is for midwifery education programs located in schools of nursing, and the other is for programs that are located in schools of nursing. Essentially, due to the way the funding structures are set up, 2 different grant programs are required, but they essentially do the same thing, which is to 1, direct support 2 student midwives also to establish or expand accredited midwifery schools or programs, and also to increase the number of instructors and clinical training sites that encourage students to become midwives and train them to become midwives. Great. So then moving on to our last issue area, which is maternal mortality and maternal health. So we have this bill here, the Maternal Health Quality Improvement Act of 2019, and also the Lower Healthcare Costs Act. You might be wondering, why do we have these two bills sort of together, even though they look like they have different names? Well, the reason for that is that key provisions from the Maternal Health Quality Improvement Act were included within the Lower Healthcare Costs Act. The Lower Healthcare Costs Act is being led by Senator Alexander from Tennessee, who, as you may know, serves as the chair of the very influential Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee. So the fact that he's leading a bill with these provisions included means it's much more likely to pass and to be written into law, which is really encouraging. So the goal of this bill is really to be a comprehensive maternal health bill that establishes a number of grant programs. Without going into too much detail, I'll just talk about a few of those grant programs. So one would be to identify, develop, or disseminate best practices for improving maternal health care and infant health outcomes. Another is a grant program for the training of health professionals with the goal of reducing and preventing discrimination in the provision of maternal care. Another grant program is for the establishment of perinatal quality collaboratives with the goal of improving perinatal care and perinatal health outcomes for pregnant and postpartum women. And also grants for establishing or operating integrated healthcare services to pregnant and postpartum women with the goal of optimizing health for women and their infants. So this bill really just creates a wide range of grant programs with the overall goal of just improving maternal health outcomes in the United States. So moving on to our last bill, which is the Healthy Mommies Act, as it's called in the House, and the Senate it's referred to just as the Mommies Act. This bill is introduced by Representative Presley from Massachusetts in the House and Senator Booker from New Jersey in the Senate. So while this bill has a few goals, really the main goal of this bill is related to Medicaid and Medicaid coverage. So this bill would expand Medicaid coverage to include a full range of services to ensure people have access to comprehensive care throughout their pregnancy, labor, and postpartum. Currently, Medicaid's pregnancy pathway and coverage only lasts for 60 days, but as I'm sure everyone knows, health issues associated with pregnancy don't end after 60 days. So this bill would extend that length of time from 60 days to a full year to 365 days to ensure new mothers have access to comprehensive care throughout the postpartum period. Secondly, this bill would grant access to primary healthcare providers by extending the ACA, the Affordable Care Act's primary care bump for Medicaid beneficiaries. In more plain English, that means that this bill would increase the Medicaid minimum reimbursement rates for maternal and obstetric services for people in underserved areas. The idea being there that these increased reimbursement rates would further incentivize health providers to participate in the Medicaid program and participate in these services. A third thing this bill does is it creates a maternity care home model demonstration project in up to 15 states. Maternity care homes, as I'm sure many of you know, have shown promise on improving maternal health outcomes and providing very culturally competent care. So this bill would essentially create a pilot program to examine the effectiveness of maternity care homes and their possible future involvement in future legislation. Fourth, this bill would try to expand access to community-based doula care. Currently, doula care is only available through Medicaid in certain states. This part of the bill would require the creation of a report on coverage of doula care under state Medicaid programs and create strategies to improve pre and postpartum doula care. And lastly, just quickly, this bill also requires a study to be conducted on telemedicine as a potential mechanism for increasing access to maternity care. So it would require the Government Accountability Office, GAO, to submit a report to Congress on state Medicaid's use of telemedicine and to include recommendations on how to increase access to telemedicine for maternity care services. Great, so that wraps it up for me. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to me explain these bills. I know we're having a little question and answer session afterwards, so definitely if you have any questions, feel free to direct those toward me, and I'll do my best to answer them at the end of the session. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Luke. I like to think of Luke as like our incredibly smart little brother that's like lifting up this important work for women. Thank you, Luke, to you and Katrina Velasquez, the principal at Center Road Solution, for all of your support. I also, before we turn it over to Kay Matthews, who's going to be presenting the last bucket of the Momnibus, want to just acknowledge the hard work of the policy committee of Mom Congress, led by Claire and her team. We've got several amazing partners on that committee, Meredith and Adrian and Jay Wilson. Just want to give all of you a shout out for your hard work, helping to whittle down the very many bills that Mom Congress could have been supporting and endorsing to make sure that what we're supporting is meaningful. So thank you for that great work. And without further ado, I now have the pleasure of turning it over to one of my dear colleagues, and I think someone that many of us know well and have come to love, the mother of all mothers. I call her Kay Matthews. And Kay, before I do turn it over to you, we're not going to be able to see Kay's video today. We'll hear her voice and see her photo here for just a moment. I also want to acknowledge that we have another special guest who's not making remarks, but Jack D'Amato from Congresswoman Lauren Underwood's office, who is co-sponsoring the Black Maternal Health Momnibus, a separate Momnibus that's also a part of ours. So Jack, just want to give you a shout out and thank you and your boss for your leadership and all of your smarts. We love having men helping to lead this work. So thank you for your help. And Kay, now over to you.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Joy, for that wonderful introduction. So I've had the opportunity to be involved in the creation of the Momnibus, not just through Mom Congress, but also working with Representative Underwood. So my section, I'm going to talk about the Honoring Kiera Johnson Act, which, if you're not familiar with Kiera Johnson, she's a daughter, a wife, and a mother. And after going in for a scheduled C-section, complaining of abdomen pain, severe abdomen pain, and her husband, Charles Johnson, who you may have saw or not, but you will see Charles constantly asking for assistance from the doctors and the nurses, and basically being ignored. By the time 10 hours later, Kiera was willed to the back for emergency surgery, they found that during the C-section, her abdomen had been lacerated and she had bled to death. So this, in all of its in the light in which we see it, sadly, Kiera died on the operating table, but this was a preventable death. And as we probably all have heard, our morbidity rates for African-American women are 3 times higher than any other race, and sometimes 10, depending on what city or state we're talking about. So this Honoring Kiera Johnson Act is sponsored by Alma Adams, and of course it has a lot of other representatives that are standing behind Alma Edwards. So the Honoring Kiera Act, of course, Mom Congress is proud to support it. It is in the package of the 9 bills. And as the newly appointed Black Caucus moderator for Mom Congress 2.5, those that are interested in the Black maternal health bills that are being introduced, we're certainly going to take a deeper dive. But this bill will provide funding to community-based organizations, particularly those that are led by Black women. There be grant programs to implement and study the constant bias and racism that we hear about and know exist. Of course, that funding could be used for trainings for all employees that are in a maternity care setting. Funding for respective maternity care, and respective is such a a word that is, I think we need to do a little bit more on what actually respective care looks like. And so this bill in particular will actually create like a compliance like this. If you're not following these steps in this order, you're not doing something right. So that's what this bill will also help to do. It will also provide mechanisms for pregnant and postpartum patients to report these instances where they feel like they're not receiving the respective care that they deserve. It's not that it actually, respective care should be an automatic thing. You shouldn't have to demand it. It should be automatically given to you. And so also being able to report biases. And by reporting these things, you will at some point get these people to be held, get the healthcare system to be held accountable for, again, preventable deaths. So that's pretty much what, just a little overview of what the Honoring Care of Johnson Act is. Again, we will take deeper dives into these bills, and together collectively we're certainly going to make the shift happen that is long overdue and needs to happen now more than ever, because it is 2020 and it is beyond time for it to be the year of the mother. So thank you.
Thank you, Kay.
You're
I
welcome.
also just want to acknowledge that is our full Momnibus. You can look at all 9 of the Momnibus bills in the Black Maternal Health Momnibus package. And we also want to acknowledge that our Native American mothers are also addressed through that package and are dying at unprecedented rates of preventable maternal deaths as well, and want to honor those mothers. And we hope to bring more of those mothers into our community later this year. So thank you so much, Kay and Jack, and the Black Maternal Health Caucus for your leadership on the bill package. I also want to acknowledge quickly that many of nonprofit organizations have been working tirelessly behind the scenes to make some of these bills a reality, including the Partnership for Women and Families and many others in their coalition. MMHLA is sponsoring and supporting the work around additional payment for the Bringing Postpartum Depression Out of the Shadows Act. I just want to say thank you to all of our partners for making these bills and opportunities possible. With that, we want to turn it over now to hear from our friends Tamika and Eleni about an opportunity for those of us that have had personal experiences, in particular with maternity care challenges, to come together at the Champions for Change Summit with face masks and 6 feet distance, etc. Tamika has been an attendee of both events, and we thought it would be really wonderful for her to share her experiences and why some of us listening today might really want to consider an in-person event together in Texas. So Tamika, I'm turning it over to you.
Hi, everyone. It's Tamika here actually I'm in Tennessee today, normally in North Carolina. And it's crazy when I think about 2 years ago today, I was actually unconscious. I had just had emergency surgery, emergency C-section to deliver my stillborn son, Jace, and a ruptured liver through complications of HELLP syndrome. And to be here right now is nothing short of a miracle. When I woke up, I wasn't really sure how my life would go, like what was going to happen after that. And after, dealing with everything, Marianne Drexler actually reached out to me to join the Maternal Near Miss group, Facebook group, which led to me going to Mom Congress. And honestly, I have never wanted to lobby for anything in my life. So just to go there, that it was just so out of my comfort zone, but it was something that I really and honestly needed. And that also goes for Summit. Mom Congress led me to Summit. So when I was thinking about like what I was gonna say, I came up with 4 things that were important to me, 4 things that I got from both of them. And one is information, there were so many things when we created Jace's Journey. Our goal was to start having conversations in our community about things that we needed to talk about and weren't talking about. One thing, stillbirth, breastfeeding, mental health, all of those things. That was our focus. And I knew I needed another outlet in order to gather resources. I know I needed more information. So going to Mom Congress and Summit gave me that information that I needed. There were so many things that I didn't know going into this that now I know, and I'm armed with that information at this point. Another thing was inspiration, just seeing the work that all of you guys are doing, Kay, Joy, Crystal, you guys were an inspiration to me. I was not an advocate for anything other than, you know, food and shopping and clothes. But you guys were so inspirational. It just made me want to be like you. It made me want to do more. And that goes to empowerment. Just to see like how much work has been done with everyone around the Maternal Health Act, all the acts, everything that's going on around maternal health, just all the work that people have been doing for years, just empowered me to want to do more. It empowered me to continue to go on and to know that I wasn't by myself, which also leads to support. We have a tribe. We have a tribe of amazing people, and we not only support each other during our events, we support each other all year. And just to really sum it up, Mom Congress and Summit were two things that I never thought I needed, and I did. I totally need both of those things, and I'm so grateful to be a part of this tribe. Thank you.
Tamika, thank you so much. We're going to get Eleni up on the screen to talk a little bit about the details, but I have to say before Eleni joins us, some of us are in tears, and you inspire us. Kay, you inspire us. We are definitely all sisters in this work, and thank you for the goosebumps and tears, Tamika. I think our whole community listening now and watching the recording, you brought us to our knees, and we love you. Eleni, we'll turn it over to you and tell us more about the summit.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joy. And Tamika, as always, those who inspire are inspired and vice versa. So thank you for being part of this tribe. You guys heard Tamika mention Summit. What she's referring to is the Champions for Change Summit, which is an annual summit that is for everybody on this call and so many others who are eager to make a difference in maternal health. Usually because you've had a lived experience that either scared you, shook you up, made you angry, or was a complete disaster, and now you're ready to turn your lemon into lemonade. You're ready to become a patient partner, to advocate for improvement. So if any of that even comes close to describing you, then the Champions for Change Summit is for you. It will be an in-person event. As my Southern mother used to say, God willing and the creek don't shine, don't rise, I should say. We are planning on making an in-person event primarily because we have heard from so many of you that we need a safe place to come together as a community. We are dying to get out of our homes, and Champions for Change Summit is a place that builds community where we feed one another. We are going to put some safe health measures in place, but we do want to do it as an in-person event. It's going to be Friday, October 2nd through Sunday, October 4th in Houston, Texas. I want to encourage those of you, especially who are a little ways out from your maternity event, whatever it was, to really consider coming to this. Those of you who are closer to your event, for whom this might still be a little bit raw, we do provide a safe, supportive environment. So I want to say that you are also absolutely welcome, and this community is going to totally get you and embrace you and love you and support you. It is sometimes hard if you're really still super raw, excuse me, because you are going to be bombarded by a lot of information, and you may still be needing to emotionally heal. But if you do, this is a place where we're going to love you and support you. This is an event for patient partners, but we are doing something a little different this year in that we are bringing some healthcare providers to the event so that we can learn from each other. This is patient provider advocacy work. What we're doing is bringing the patient part of it to the table. They are going to be some expert speakers from providers who are going to help us understand what this looks like from their perspective. I mean, that's how real work happens, is when we can see each other's vantage points and understand them. And so we will have an opportunity to learn from each other. They're also going to have their own track where they can learn from us how to be really good at engaging patient partners. There's going to be content for both new and returning attendees. So if you've been before, don't hesitate to come back. We are going to have a lot of new content. Of course, storytelling with a purpose is going to be one of those recurring topic areas that you're going to hear us do a lot of training for. We all have our lived experiences, and we need to figure out how do we honor our story and tell it in a way that accomplishes something meaningful. So we are going to have both novice and veteran tracks for storytelling. We're going to explore some of the innovations in maternity care that you may be hearing about across the country, so that we can become informed advocates if they are innovations that we want, that we agree with, and that we want to help advance. Or we may hear about them and say, you know what, I actually disagree. I don't think that's going to be helpful. But either way, we are coming from a place of information and an informed position. We are going to be bringing back some of our more popular speakers, as well as bringing in new experts from around the country. Those of you who really want to evolve your work as patient advocates, we're going to be doing some work. We're going to be talking about mentorship. We are going to be talking about how to plan your strategy and developing your resume, if you will, as a patient advocate. Most importantly, and I will wrap up my comments now, I want you to know that you are going to be amongst women who really get you. You are going to find your tribe and connect or reconnect with some really amazing women. So I encourage you to visit us at MommasVoices.org. Registration is open. There's even a video clip there from last year's event, which might inspire you. So I encourage you to check that out. And most importantly, we really want to see you in Houston. So that's it. And I'm happy to take questions at the end if we have time. Joy, I'll let you moderate that. But that's what I wanted to share with you all about Champions for Change.
Great. Thanks so much, Eleni. It's great to hear from you always. And I will be at the Champions for Change Summit, just like I was last year. Really enjoy it. And again, it really is a place to find your village. If you're looking for an in-person event, this is the one to come to, where we'll be safe together and really be able to process some of what you've experienced. I know there's a question in our Q&A box today about learning more about the maternity care home, like what does that really mean? These are some of the concepts that we get to learn more about. Sort of the non-policy levers for advancing change in maternity care specifically. So join us if you can in Houston, Texas. It's going to be it's a beautiful place. The hotel is gorgeous, and it's just a great place to rest, recover, and be together. Excellent. I have the great pleasure of turning it over now to someone on our team, Crystal McCulley, who many of you know, has been on the Mom Congress team behind the scenes, doing lots of great work for us for several years now. She is joining us from New Zealand, where I don't even think the sun has risen yet. So Crystal, I hope you've had your coffee. I think you have. And turning it over to you now to give us a snapshot preview of the new online member community for Mom Congress members. Crystal.
Thank you so much, Joy. Yes, the sun is not up yet, so you have officially turned me into a morning person. I'm very excited to join you all virtually, and I miss you all very much. Our Mom Congress team has internally, for a long time, wanted to find a way to bottle up the momentum that we create every year together in DC. We know when we spend those moments together that it really creates an energy that you just can't replace. So we kept thinking we want a way to sustain it after we go back into our own communities. So even though we lost the opportunity to gather together in person this year, the situation has prompted us to create an online member community for our Mom Congress members. So I'm very excited to share with you all a sneak peek of that community. I want to take a quick moment to say a big thank you to Samantha Konikoff, who some of you may know as one of our dedicated advocates from Washington State. She has dedicated a lot of time and effort to making this happen. So I'm going to give you a quick snapshot into what that community looks like. You'll see here that this is our main page. So our online community will be a place where you can share files, articles, ideas, and events. It's just a way for us to stay connected throughout the year. So here on the main page, you can see we have a couple snapshots of things shared. You'll each individually have a profile page. So that's me. Everyone will get to create their own profile. And once you join as a Mom Congress member, you'll be invited to join the member community here. And then you'll be able to join up to 2 of the 4 caucus areas of interest. So you'll recognize that each of these represent the bill packages that were introduced earlier. You can choose up to 2. You'll also be added to your state group. So wherever you're registered to vote, you'll see that all 50 states are represented. So wherever you live, you choose that state, and then we will have a profile created here where you can see that I'm registered for the state of California. I'm also in the maternal mental health group and in the working moms paid family leave and affordable childcare group. So within each of those groups, you can see internally that they look like this. So this is the maternal mental health group currently, where we've been sharing some ideas, articles, and events. You'll have plenty of time to get to know this community. We also have a whole team of moderators that will help generate content and keep you all engaged. So thank you to all of our moderators that have signed on and been doing some work to get to know this community. This will be launching live on May 31st. So we will look forward to welcoming all of our Mom Congress members at that time. Thanks, Joy.
Thank you, Crystal. We're going to open up the remainder of today's session for Q&A. And while you're each sharing any questions or comments that you might have, I wanted to say thank you to a few more people. First, I want to acknowledge the work of Alice Liu, who many of you know is staff that supports the policy committee work, along with our experts from Center Road Solutions. Alice, want to say thank you. We also have our board chair joining us, our vice chair from 2020 Mom, the organization that staffs the Mom Congress events and platform. So John Smith, hello to you and your family, who we know is watching together with us. So hello, everyone. And we love that your kids are joining in and watching all of us too. We're so grateful for you, John, and the entire board. And I also want to share, before we get to questions and comments here, that this is an important month, May, because of Mother's Day. It's also Preeclampsia Awareness Month, it's Maternal Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's Women's Health Awareness Month. And it's Mental Health Awareness Month, and there's probably a month that I'm forgetting. But if you do have it in your heart and you have an ability to give to these organizations and share their messages, the HER Foundation, Hyper Nemesis, just celebrated and their Awareness Day on Friday, really touching work they're doing. We invite you all to give in any way that you can by sharing messages, sharing funds, sharing time. With that, I'm going to see if there are any questions or comments that people want to share. And even if there's something really special that you heard today or that you can't wait to unpack a bit more, you're welcome to share those questions and comments. We are getting a question about, remind us how we might raise our voices together this May around the Momnibus. So great comment and question. We are looking to do a couple of things later this year, including hosting a Hill Day briefing. It will likely be virtual. We rescheduled that to September because we were hoping to do that in person in DC with Congress More information will be forthcoming about that Hill Day briefing. You can find out information on the Mom Congress website, the 2020 events page. We also are launching a couple of workshops, including a workshop on storytelling, where you'll have an opportunity to find in yourself your story and refine it. So maybe you've had a maternal event, like Tamika shared her personal event. Maybe you feel really passionate about access to paid family leave, and that's your issue. So you'll have a chance to help craft your story around one of those four caucus areas and bring a bill ask to your legislature, congressperson and senator on the Hill through, we'll coach you on how to schedule a virtual phone call. So you can just do that over the phone, or you and your congressperson can do a Zoom meeting if you'd like. It's not going to be an organized opportunity, but we'll coach you on how to do that. And we'll also be launching a letter writing campaign. So you don't have to have a live conversation per se, but we invite you to if you're comfortable. But we'll help folks share their story and their ask of Congress tied to their story through a letter writing campaign. All of that information is on the website. We'll make sure that we fill you all in about how to get engaged. We're also going to bring, as we heard Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz talked about several of the coronavirus relief packages and how they relate to mothers, et cetera. As you have seen, we've been following much of that work as well. We'll continue to bring you calls to action and opportunities to use your voice around those packages throughout the summer as well. So thank you for that really great question. I'm going to see if there's another one here. Great. So somebody's saying, I'm in New York and I want to do, so I want to get involved in championing some of this work, and I'm from New York and I'm an advocate and want to go deeper in Mom Congress. Send us an email and we will get you plugged in deeper ways. The first way to start, of course, is to join the Mom Congress member community and let us all get to know you and get to know each other, particularly if you didn't have a chance to join us last year in person. That's how you hit the ground running here. Any other questions or comments? And Crystal, I'd love for you to open your line and make sure we've covered everything that we want to today. We do have another town hall coming up. It will be a member-only town hall that is scheduled for June 13th. Dr. Pepra, Leda Pepra, is on the line today. She will be speaking, and we're hoping that she can really help us understand maternity care and race for Black mothers. I have heard her speak and was touched about, sort of the history of Black people in our country and how maternity care has evolved over time and just how traumatic it can be on so many levels. We're looking forward to hearing from you. We're also going to hear our keynote speaker, who was scheduled to join us last week in DC, actress Abigail Hawk, who has written a beautiful keynote that will inspire you like so many people have inspired us today. She will be joining us along with Motherly, Diana Spalding from Motherly, who's going to be sharing the state of the state on mothers in the U.S. with their annual report on motherhood. We're looking forward to hearing from those three speakers in June. Again, all of this information is on the website. Some links will be added shortly so that you can start to RSVP for those events. It looks like we may have covered all the questions except I see one more, and that is, how do we involve Latinas and Hispanic women in a deeper way? I love that question. We are definitely open to looking at creating various communities in the online platform. Nobody's excluded. You'll see that the reason there is policy around Black maternal health and Native American women health is there is a true disparity in the numbers of women dying preventable deaths there. So great question. Feel free to email us. And if anyone's interested in potentially launching their own caucus to address unique needs of their communities, we want to talk to you. So I think that's a great question. And let's see if anyone else can help share. Michelle, your line is, I'm going to open your line, Michelle, or Stacey, if you can help me do that. from the Colette Louise Tisdale Foundation to talk a little bit about an upcoming webinar on infertility that's happening this week. And Michelle, let's see if we can open your line really quick and you can give us a quick shout out, and we'll make sure that we share that through our upcoming e-news. Stacey, if you can unmute Michelle's line, that would be great. And any other questions or comments, feel free to add them now.
Hi, Michelle. And Joy, I think I'm unmuted.
There we go. Great. Hi, Michelle. Would love to hear from you.
Hi.
Thank you so much for all of your great dedication to Mom Congress.
Always. Yeah, so we are hosting on Wednesday at noon Central Time. So I don't know all the math. Time zones still confuse me, but it's noon Central. We're hosting an informational session on infertility with an amazing reproductive endocrinologist who just does a great job of explaining things. And you can register on our website. I sent the link, but it's a Zoom link. And so I know that all of this stuff gets confusing, but it's Colette, C-O-L-E-T-T-E, Louise.com, and you can register there. You can register even if you can't make the live taping, and we will record it and we will email the recording out to those who registered. But I think it should be really interesting, and we're really excited about it. So,
thank you so much, Michelle. I also want to just quickly address that in addition to Michelle and her foundation providing webinars on topics like this, she has also, as we mentioned earlier, graciously opened up a COVID relief fund for mothers and is also sponsoring membership to Mom Congress. So for those who are in a financial situation where they can't afford the $45 membership, the support is coming from Michelle and her organization. So Michelle, we're just truly grateful, and thank you for sharing the webinar information. We will make sure we get that out in e-news. Crystal, if you can make a note of it, that sounds great. And then there's a comment, we'll have a couple more comments here. There's a question that was asked about resources around the anxiety and distress caused by the COVID situation. There's some great information on various websites. I would say probably many of our organizations have such information. The organization that I know well, because it's one of the projects 2020 Mom runs, in addition to Mom Congress, is the bluedotproject.org. There's a list of resources under the Get Help tab. So the bluedotproject.org, you can take a look there. There is information about the COVID relief fund on Michelle's website. Again, we'll make sure we send that out in e-news today. So thank you for that good question, and we really encourage you all to get that information out to your communities. And I think that brings us to the end of our questions. We are so excited to come together in this community. I just again want to thank the team, Crystal, Stacey, and others for making today possible. We loved coming together with all of you who are on the line. And can't wait to see all of you again at the next town hall on June 13th and in the online community, which will launch May 31st, that Crystal gave you insight to. Someone just said we can write proclamations and do some great things together. We're going to teach you and show you how to do all of that in the online community. And again, we invite you all to join us at the summit in October in Houston as well. Again, we'll send out a link to register for that event with our next e-newsletter. Thank you again, everyone, for joining the community, and to our speakers and today's sponsor, Sage Therapeutics. We're so grateful for all of your support and all that you do. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you on the 13th.